All right, welcome to African Reform. Today, just wanted to give some commentary on a situation that is a microcosm of a larger situation, a much more common situation. And, in the spirit of this channel, we're just going to give some critiques and some commentary about some of the things that we see here. And really ask some hard questions. With no further ado, let's get started.
In the pre-dawn hours, the NYPD is taking an aggressive stance, they say, to get bad guys off the streets. And Pix 11 News is there. Dozens of officers surrounded this apartment where alleged gang members live. They're accused of terrorizing NYCHA residents in the Astoria and Woodside houses. Within minutes, Dejan Price is taken out in handcuffs. Cops say Price and 22 others are.
All right, so I just wanted to pause on that shot of these two gangs. So these are two rival gangs in Queens. As you can see, their names on the left. Uh, very sophisticated names that they chose for their gangs. I think the funny thing is you see people naming gangs where the biggest mafias in the world, they're unnamed, right? Not advocating to do crime in any sort of way, but you can see that part of the allure comes from the aggrandizement of being a gangster, right? Why would you give a name to your gang? It makes it more easily identifiable, as the police have identified on this board, right? So it lets you see that there's something going on here where it's not just about getting cash, like the first gang's name is. It's about sticking your chest out, about somehow giving yourself some level of status through membership in this organization. And where does that come from? Where does that need come from? If you read about, the classic literature on why people join gangs, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's acceptance, sometimes it's the lack of male role models. And I would say that, there's all of that in there. Um, when you join a group called the True Cash Getters, I guess maybe you're trying to portray yourself as someone that gets money, um, but you may just end up on one of these. As you can clearly see, most of the people on the board here for these two gangs are of African descent, right? This is in the United States, so probably primarily African American. And, like the ethos of this channel, is it technically white supremacy or racism that made you create this group and made you join this group and made you do some of the crimes? And you're going to see some of the crazy stuff, some of the heinous, reckless things that some of these members were getting up to. So let's continue.
Are part of two rival gangs at war over turf and power. In surveillance video obtained by Pix 11 News, you can see them shooting at each other and innocent bystanders running for cover.
So, shooting in broad daylight with all sorts of people around, very easy to get caught. It just goes back to the point that a lot of this is just for bravado and to prove that you're a tough guy. I mean, there are people that do crimes and sell drugs for their own self esteem. It's not because of a lack of economic opportunity for some people. For a lot of people, a lot of it is because of a culture that says that this is cool, a culture that says that being in a gang or being a gangster and getting money on the streets is cool, right? And this isn't the last video I'm going to show you to really make bring that argument home about this culture. Um, but you're gonna see that it gets even worse.
This all happened in the hot summer months, with children trying to buy ice cream. They too were dodging bullets.
I mean, you see it, right? Just no regard for life. And who are you gonna blame for it? I mean, this is Queens, New York. This is New York City. People rush into this city for opportunities, and all you want to do is, sell drugs and shoot in broad daylight and fight for turf that you're not even owning. You want to fight for turf? Buy real estate. It doesn't even This doesn't even make sense. Like, you're talking about you run a block, you don't even own it. You don't own any buildings on that block. You're fighting over places often that are public housing that belong to the government. You're fighting over sidewalks and you're risking lives. You got a little girl trying to buy ice cream apparently, and you pull the gun out and you just start shooting right then and there. I mean, how can you blame anybody but yourself for this situation?
That we're not gonna tolerate the violence. The streets belong to the community. They deserve to walk in the streets. They deserve to get ice cream. They deserve to be in the playgrounds. They deserve to be in the park benches without having to deal with violence.
In order to understand this police crackdown, we have to rewind a bit.
And as you saw, the young guy who had his shirts in his sleeves, you just see the attitude, right? You see the behavior. You're still trying to act macho when your face is on camera. They've got your name plastered on a board. Why are you running your mouth when you're in police custody? It just shows the level of stupidity, the level of just no education. There's no wisdom here. You're in police custody. You're supposed to be quiet, especially if you might be guilty. Even if you're not guilty, you're supposed to be quiet. Any lawyer will tell you, be quiet. And then especially don't be in the middle of the street waving, flailing your arms around. Any of this footage, any of your behavior can be used in the court of law against you. But you see, when a culture is so pervasively detrimental, when it's so corrosive to the mind, these things aren't even taken into account. What's most important to that young kid flailing his arms around in his sweatshirt as if he's made some sort of triumph or as if he's done something so great? What's more important to him is displaying an attitude that's been aggrandized by the culture of I don't care, I do what I want. Apparently nobody can touch him even though he's in handcuffs, right? I mean, it's sad really, but this is the culture, and it's just got to change, and we have to stop blaming other people. It's got this kid definitely needs to look in the mirror.
To
He's got
understand
no
this
one to
police
blame.
crackdown, we have to rewind a bit. This investigation started about 2 years ago on March 12th, 2021. Surveillance video shows three teens shooting at each other, but missing their targets. According to police, one of their bullets hit and killed an innocent bystander, 37-year-old Godelia Valines. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, trying to buy a gallon of milk. She was a wife and a mother of two young children. Charles G. lives near Woodside Houses and remembers the day Valines died.
I saw the posters hanging up, and I was thinking to myself, like, these kids, they were expecting their mother to come home, and now she's never coming home.
Her death motivated police to take a closer look at the violence happening in her Queens neighborhood.
We discovered multiple layers of investigations brought us back a few years, about 3 or 4 year investigation about these two crews.
While trying to find Valines' killer, detectives say they discovered what was driving up the gun violence in the Woodside and Astoria houses. So they zeroed in on these two alleged gang crews, watching and trying.
I mean, and just to touch on, first of all, the unfortunate loss of life of someone that has nothing to do with any of the foolishness that they were getting up to. Do people consider that You've basically orphaned her two children because you want to be a part of the hip hop boys or the true cash getters. I mean, look at the name of the group, the hip hop boys. And look, hip hop is a great art form, but I think that we need to address what some of the lyrics do, especially for people who don't have the type of guidance that would allow them to filter out these lyrics as just entertainment rather than really taking it to heart and create it as a personal persona. And like I said, look at it. They literally called themselves the hip hop boys. Are we still going to say that hip hop music doesn't have any effect on the culture? I mean, we literally call it hip hop culture, but then we, on the other hand, claim that it has no effect. Look, like rap is a fantastic art form. I mean, it's such a difficult task, like what a great rapper does. The instrumentals, it's real art. But how cool is it to tell people to shoot each other, right? I mean, Kanye was on Drink Champs and he was talking about how, you know, the record execs will pay and promote people saying, I'm going to blank a, N word. I'm going to kill or delete an N word. I'm going to delete an N word over and over and over again in various so called creative ways. And that's perfectly fine. It's accepted at this point. I mean, it's sad. And it's sad that a lot of rappers that are so talented, they choose to go down that path. I feel as if it's okay to talk about the streets if you talk about it in an introspective and reflective manner and not aggrandizing it and trying to make it look cool. Because obviously these dudes were trying to look cool, and now innocent people are dead, people injured, and all these dudes just threw their life away. Look at the inverse, right? Opportunity cost. What could these guys have been had they had ascribed to a different culture? Let me paint a picture. What if these kids would have been adopted into a household that was steeped in a different culture, that was steeped in a culture of education, of respect, of getting your self esteem and pride as a man from contributing to society, from learning, from inventing, from, employing other people, from accomplishment, real substantive accomplishment. What if they had been raised up in that culture, maybe through being foster children? Or maybe what if the culture that they were born into was different? And that's the whole point of it. Let's continue on.
Tracking their movements, all while building a case. The suspects would apparently brag about their actions on social media and in drill rap music. This operation comes.
What did I say? Is it really about getting money if you're broadcasting your crimes on social media and putting it in songs? This is about culture. We can make all the arguments we want about, oh, they don't have economic opportunities and they're putting in a certain situation, so that's why they turn to the life of crime. Well, if it was about money, you would keep your mouth shut. If you were about money, the last thing you would want is to post it on social media. So it's not about money. It's not about money for a lot of these kids. And that's the thing that people aren't getting. This is culture. This is about a culture that is deranged, a culture that doesn't value life. I mean, drill music is horrific. I mean, I could do several videos on that. I mean, drill music is, they should just call it what it is, you know? It is deletion music. It's literally all about deleting people all day long and displaying arms in the video and talking about all the different ways that you're going to delete other people from your own community as if that somehow is going to lead you to some form of success. Can you name me a single person in that lane of music, if you call it that, that has had any type of long term success? Oh, they might have a one hit, and then the next thing you know, they're being investigated, they're catching charges, or they're, you know, leaving the earth on the other side of the gun, right? It really doesn't go in too many directions. So let's continue on.
while the department is mourning the shooting death of one of their own. Officer Adid Fayaz, the chief of the unit, even thought about postponing it.
I was struggling with it a little bit, where I'm kind of going back and forth, where you come to a crossroads, you're like, should we even go on?
But taking into account the oath they took and the way Fayaz lived his life,
We have to do this for Adid. So this takedown is in honor of Adid. And if everybody could just have a moment of silence for him and his family.
before sunrise, detectives in partnership with the Queens District Attorney's Office hit multiple locations. In all, detectives arrested 8 people in this raid. Overall, at least 16 out of the 23 suspects are in custody. And
All right, so I think I'm just gonna stop after that. It's all just senseless, really senseless. It wasn't even about money. You are literally deleting people for self-aggrandizement. I'm sorry, but we can't blame white people for this. At a certain point, you've got to take self responsibility. You've got to be accountable. This this can't be a situation where we watch these things and then we find people that were not directly involved and blame them first. Yes, sure. The argument can be made that, oh, well, these particular record execs are from this particular ethnic group and therefore they're to blame. I'm not absolving them of all guilt, but let me paint a picture. If all I have to do to make you destroy your community is make it catchy and put it in a song, you should be embarrassed to point the finger at me. Because basically you're saying, well, they made it catchy and they put it in songs, so that's why I'm doing it. Excuse me? And can you then say that a community that would condone such things, that does not condemn such things in mass as its primary condemnation, deserves anything better than the state of affairs in which it sits? I don't believe so. Please let me know what you all think in the comments. Um, I hope that I've given you something to reflect on, and I hope that we can start to make real judgments that might not be popular, that might sound uncool, but if we hadn't let this culture be pervasive, that lady in this video in Queens would still have her life, and her kids would still have a mother, and these tens of young men would still have a future to speak of. Some of them might come out and be reformed. Prison isn't really a great place for reform, but I think that we have to really look and say, can we do better? Of course, I think it's obvious. But if we're unwilling to do self criticism, and if we're spending too much time on criticizing people that are not directly involved in the situation, I wonder if you can truly improve the situation. So what are we gonna do? Stop promoting drill music, for one, because drill music is definitely involved in this. Drill music is definitely involved in this. We got to stop promoting it. Got to stop listening to it. We've got to write to the record labels and say, listen, stop promoting this stuff. You guys are influencing people that a lot of them don't have fathers in the households to steer them right. A lot of them are young and impressionable. And, we have to ask these record execs, if you continue to keep helping to destroy the community that brings the talent that you make money off of, aren't you eventually heading towards net zero? Maybe they don't think that way. You can write them if you want, but also next time you hear your friend playing some drill music, say turn that off. The next time we sit there and listen to these guys on the radio shows, spin drill music records or spin these just completely debaucherous records, we need to write the radio and say turn that off. We're tired of it. And we need to promote the people that give positive commentary in hip hop, like Kendrick Lamar and Lupe and Talib and those guys. And it's sad that a lot of times people are like, oh man, that's corny, blah, blah, blah. That's just culture, bro. It's culture. I mean, if Kendrick Lamar is corny, then what's Socrates? I mean, do you hear people from European culture calling Socrates corny, right? Calling, Adam Smith corny, yeah, right? Like we are so steeped in a negative culture that anybody that tries to bring positivity and speak from an educated perspective, especially in the entertainment industry, gets called corny. and people say they're preaching, and we want to listen to them. Well, I guess that's the state of affairs. But just a couple solutions to throw out there at the end. Thanks for listening. Take care.